What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to America's Finest Sports Tonight. It's Wednesday night. Normally we do NBA, but you know what? I don't care about NBA 2K. I don't care about Ronnie 2K. I don't care
Who
about
needs
any of
it?
those ratings. Exactly. KD's mad on Twitter right now because he's not a 99 overall. That's about the only NBA news I've seen in the last entire week. So, NFL season starts this week, and we
Hell yeah.
decided got to bring on part of the social media team here at AFS, Bills fan Alex. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm Alex. I'm helping these guys out with some social media stuff. Big Bills fan. So yeah, getting super hyped for tomorrow night.
Yeah, that it may be the perfect matchup to start the season off with. I think a lot of times we get these season matchups and it's like I remember one year we had a Cowboys Giants opener and it's like, I get it's a rivalry, but let's get two of the best teams in the NFL to play against each other.
Dude, you're telling me, yeah, the schedule makers definitely knew what they were doing this year with all the revenge games, all the drama. So they definitely hit this year, and yeah, Bills Rams. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about it. I mean, the schedule makers decided let's start off the season with a bang because
Dude,
we
they had
get
no chill.
they were like, oh yeah, we got Bills, who the last time they played, unfortunately, a coin toss just ruined them. Rams coming off the Super Bowl. We've got Baker returning to or playing against Cleveland. We got Russ against Denver. I mean, that is just like obscene to just start the season
They're
off with
stirring the
just
pot, yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
But let's kind of jump into this game, because obviously the Rams, they're coming off the Super Bowl victory. They've got the big names, right? They got Donald, they got Ramsey, they got Cup, they got Stafford. How do the Bills match up, against them with those studs? How do they get past that if they're trying to win this game?
Yeah, I mean, I do see the Rams this year as a bit of a stars and scrubs kind of team. Like, I do view the Bills as a little bit deeper overall, but definitely when you're talking about guys like Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Cooper Cup, even, those guys are more than enough to carry a team. Um, and yeah, overall, I see this one. They're both really strong teams, uh, top to bottom. I do, like I said, I do feel like the Bills are a tad deeper, but I see this being a close game, a high flying affair. Both teams think are going to be set up for like a pass first, high flying offense kind of situation this year. So. Um, Yeah, I mean, obviously, I put my pick in 34-31 Bills. Um, I am biased, unfortunately. But yeah, I do see it as a close game that, could go either way.
Yeah, I think this game is. I mean, we saw it kind of in the preseason, right? They started off. Was it the first preseason game? Maybe it was the second, where it was like 7 consecutive touchdown drives, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the Bills.
Hmm.
They just keep on putting the ball in the end zone. Josh Allen has gotten so much better at just being more consistent, not turning the ball over as much. And I mean, the receiving weapons that they have are definitely good enough. Obviously, having Diggs helps, but Josh Allen being able to move the way he does, a running back committee that I think James Cook is the most talented. I think Zach Moss and Singletary, coming out of college, I had higher hopes for them, but
Hmm.
when you have Josh Allen throwing the football, you don't need a bell cow running back to rush for 1,500 yards. You can have
Exactly.
just three guys that are like, oh, yeah,
And when you have Josh Allen running the football.
exactly. I mean, who needs to punch it in from the one when you have Josh Allen who can just run QB power like
Exactly.
prime Cam Newton and truck somebody over? So I definitely agree. I think it's going to be really high scoring. I think, I mean, I just don't see the defenses playing a major part in this role. And I think what's funny is they're two of the best defenses in the NFL. Like, and I just don't see either one really being able to stop the other offense because of how they're situated. The Bills are like, yeah, we can get to the passer because we have a really deep, edge rushers and defensive line. And Trey White is injured, right?
He is. Yeah, he will be out for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, there goes the hope of stopping Cooper Cup,
Hmm.
and then it's like, I understand Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey's going to be on Diggs. when he's lined up on that side of the field. But I mean, Josh Allen just makes throws. He makes plays that nobody else can defend, and we see it
Exactly.
all the time. I mean, I just don't personally. I don't see how, unless something drastic happens, I don't see how the Bills are going to lose this game, barring some Aaron Donald just 4-sack ridiculous performance. Because I just don't see how this offense is going to be stopped. And Stafford, like, even though Stafford was great last year, it seemed like actually it did. He was like the number one in interceptions in the fourth quarter. He kind of fell off in the fourth quarter, but also they always started slow. It was like maybe they're down 7, going into the next quarter. The Bills are not a team you can start slow against. You have to get up on them because they're not going to run the ball out. It's going to be pass, and just completely annihilating you. And I don't know. I feel like there's going to be too many plays where it's like, I don't know. I'm not a huge Cam Akers guy. So it's like,
right.
I don't believe in that run game for them, even though they're going to have guys, hitting holes. Their offense is going to be good. Do you see there being any defense in this game, or is it just going to be honestly, a Rams-Chiefs game for Monday Night Football? Maybe not to that extent, but just, oh, wow, they scored again.
I do see it being a similar affair. When I was looking at this game and kind of looking at the X factors, I think the biggest thing is that Bills secondary and whether kind of that matchup between Stafford and the Rams receivers and the Bills secondary, because that's the only place where there are some questions. We've got Trey White, like you said, is out. So Dane Jackson will be in for him, and then we've got Kaiir Elam, the rookie, in his regular season debut. So I think a huge X factor in this game is going to be whether those guys can step up, make some plays, get some turnovers. Obviously, like you said, Stafford is prone to them. So if they can take advantage of that, I think they'll have it in the bag. But it is a question, and I also did see McVay. McVay loves these Week 1 games. He's scheming all summer, getting ready for these Week 1 matchups, and I guess he's undefeated in Week 1 since taking over as head coach with the Rams. So I'm sure he'll be scheming stuff, try to expose Elam, try to expose Jackson. You've got one of the best to do it, Cup, in the slot there, who absolutely, carves secondaries up. So that is one area where I feel like if the Rams can take advantage of that, then they might have a shot to, keep pace with the Bills offense, which, like you said, has that crazy knockout punch. But yeah, that is really the only hole. I mean, the Bills defense is pretty stacked up otherwise, so yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and it's just the way that I'm looking at this game, I feel like no matter what happens in this game, the winner is going to be looked at as this is the best team in the NFL. Whether or not it's true, I'm not, 100% sure. The better team could end up losing this game. But, like, which of these teams has more to prove? Is it the bounce back? Can they keep it going, LA Rams? Or is it the, hey, if the rules were the rules this year, we think we would be in the Super Bowl, Buffalo Bills? Who has more to prove?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do feel like it's the Bills at the end of the day. Stafford kind of got his flowers, got his, everyone was kind of is like, okay, this guy can play. Got him out of Detroit, got him some competency around him, and he can play. So I feel like that kind of weight has been lifted off his shoulders. But Josh Allen still has that kind of. Sorry, got something. Josh Allen still has that kind of weight on his shoulders of not getting over the hump, so to speak. And So I think the Bills still have that chip on their shoulder to where I think they do have a little bit more to prove. But I mean, like we said with the schedule makers, I think they definitely did pick a great game for two teams that are, looking to make a statement early and have high expectations. But yeah, I would give the edge to the Bills there.
Yeah, and kind of final question on this game: is this the biggest game of the season for either of these teams?
It's a good question. I mean, you always get to the end of the season and the way things shake out kind of determine um, what games are big and what aren't. But definitely for setting the tone for the season, the Bills have had some troubles coming out hot in the past. Last year, we saw an absolute stinker against the Steelers week one. So and I know that was like the main reason that Coach McDermott had the ones play in the preseason this year was because of that poor start last semester or last season. So, yeah, I would say definitely for setting the tone, this is probably the biggest game. Definitely high profile first game of the season. So all eyes on this game. So, yeah, it's definitely up there.
Yeah, I think setting the tone is always necessary, no matter what level of team you are,
Mm-hmm.
because unless you are a New England Patriots, where oh yeah, we have Tom Brady, we've been to the Super Bowl, 58 times in the last 58 years.
Mm-hmm.
They can go out and lose the first week, they can lose the third week, and it's like, oh, they're 2-2. Everybody still fears them because they know that it matters in the end. But
Mm-hmm.
with these other teams, it seems like the Kansas City Chiefs last year, it was like coming into the year, almost like this team, Patrick Mahomes is, he's
Mm-hmm.
Superman right now. Like he's so good, this team can't be beaten. It was like they lose a couple of games early on, and everyone's like, this team sucks.
Well, yeah, that's exactly to your point about the Bills, all the hype around them coming into this year. I feel like yeah, the talk is going to get hot real quick if the Bills trip up at all because of how high the expectations are, and that's why as a Bills fan, I'm ecstatic about all the hype and having lived through the past 20 years of absolute garbage from the Bills. It's a beautiful thing, but I feel like I have to be the one tempering expectations. There were some inconsistencies last year, some things that really needed to be cleaned up. A couple bad losses mid-season that really, were uncharacteristic and definitely uh, the type of stuff that needs to be cleaned up this year. Um, so yeah, I think it's definitely important just narrative wise and just, for the, because of how high the expectations are coming in, I think it's definitely important to, especially for this game in particular, because, you drop a couple mid-season that happens to, the best of them. But, yeah, I think it's definitely important that they come out swinging.
Yeah, you kind of hinted at it. The Buffalo Bills are getting so much hype this year. Josh Allen, leading candidate to win the MVP. I think the Bills may be the outright
Odds-on
favorite to win the
favorites,
Super
yeah.
Bowl. So it's like all this is pointing to the Buffalo Bills. It's kind of funny because I was living through this 2 years ago with the Baltimore Ravens, and it's like
Right.
because it's a team where like not a lot of media attention goes there,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it seems like everyone is going to force. Oh, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. They do that with every young quarterback. Like
Mm-hmm.
even the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, I think is wildly underrated now because everyone just they find their young guy and then they move on to the next young guy to just
Mm-hmm.
build them up as high as possible. And I think Josh Allen and Herbert are those guys. But like the expectation is, if either of those guys don't win MVP, I don't know if we're talking about them next offseason. No, I mean, Josh Allen could go out there, throw for 4,900 yards, be the one seed in the AFC, lose in the AFC championship game, and they would be like,
He's in the doghouse.
it's just
Yeah.
not, he's not the guy we thought he was. And it's like, what do you mean?
Right.
4,900, like the numbers that he's going to put up are going to be unbelievable, but the media is just going to push it aside unless they win that Super Bowl. Is that hype? Is that a bad thing for a team?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head that like the way the media cycle runs now with these players is vicious. It's absolutely vicious, and um, even I'm the biggest Josh Allen fan you'll find, and I see people putting him QB1 above Mahomes or above Rodgers, above Brady, and it's like, let's pump the brakes a little. Like he's still, I love him to death. He's got every tool that he needs to be, great, but he still needs to prove himself. He still needs to get there. He still needs to win there, and yeah. So I don't know if it's bad per se. Like I do think the Bills just baked in have that chip on their shoulder from the years and years and years and years of turmoil that the Bills have been through. But that being said, yeah, it worries me a little how much hype is surrounding this team and Josh Allen in particular. But I am hoping that they maintain that sort of underdog mentality and um, really try to keep the noise out and focus on taking it one game at a time and winning football games.
Yeah, because I think the national media, the way they try and do everything right now is a situation where they're like, hey, we need to find the next whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the NBA, find the next LeBron, find the next Kobe, find the next Steph Curry. In the
Always.
NFL, it's find the next, now kind of, Patrick Mahomes, but find the next dynasty. Oh, well, we've had a team and a quarterback dominate the AFC for the last 20 years in the New England
Mm-hmm.
Patriots. And now we're in a situation where I think there's kind of 4, 5, maybe 6 teams that are really trying to be like, hey, we're the next Patriots. You have the Bills. All these teams have great young quarterbacks. You have the Bills. You have the Chiefs, who have actually won the Super Bowl. You have the Ravens and the Bengals. And I would say like maybe the Chargers and the Broncos you could throw in there. They haven't had the postseason success, but Broncos adding in Russell Wilson, maybe they'll be able to get there. All of these teams are trying to do it. And it's like they're going to be torn down if they don't become the Patriots dynasty. I feel like no matter what. It's very okay if I'm fine with it. I hated the Patriots dynasty because it was so annoying. My
Tell
team
me
was having
about
to
it.
go
Yeah.
against it. You had to play them twice a year.
Yeah.
That must have been even worse.
Yeah.
But like, if it's a situation where it's like, oh yeah, in a 12-year span of all those young quarterbacks' careers, it was Mahomes got to 3, Allen got to 2, Lamar got to 1, Burrow got to 1, Herbert got to 2, Russ got to 1. It's like, wow, look at that. That's fine. That was the NFC. Let the NFC be the league that where maybe Trey Lance in San Francisco really works and they become, maybe it's not 20 years, but it's 7 years in a row where it's like, wow, they are the best team because we haven't had when was the last time we had, obviously it was the Patriots dynasty, but like years where it was like, yep, they're the best team. They're the best team. They're the best team. They're the best team. They're the team to beat. It changes every year now that Tom Brady is gone to the NFC and he's just older where now it's like, okay, Brady or the Rams or whatever. I don't know if they're ever going to replace it. And I think that's bad for all these young quarterbacks because the media is just going to destroy. They already destroyed Mahomes. I'm like, Mahomes has been to 2 Super Bowls and he's super young. It's ridiculous.
No, I completely agree. And I feel like in today's paradigm, I don't know what it is that's changed to make this be the case. Maybe just more talent in general, but yeah, I don't see how a team could replicate that sort of run in this paradigm that we're in now. There's just too many good teams. There's just too many good quarterbacks. There's too many great defenses to where, I think you're definitely seeing more parity, which I think is a good thing. And I think once and also we're kind of in this shift where we're at like the beginning of a lot of these young players, young quarterbacks' careers, and so people are projecting and holding them to the same standard as a Brady or a Manning or something like that, and we have to see how it plays out, and also, yeah, I think it's a good thing if it's someone new every year, someone, uh, always someone new vying for. I mean, even the Bengals last year. Obviously, I was disappointed that it wasn't the Bills, but what an awesome run they went on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and I think that's only good for the sport. It's only good for the league, and um, but but yeah, it is interesting, like the fallout from the Brady era, and like whether that could even happen again, or yeah, it's
And
interesting.
it's the Brady era is so the difficult part to replicate is it wasn't all about just him playing and being really good. It was
Exactly.
he married one of the richest supermodels in the world and is able to take pay cuts.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, I'm sorry, Alex, but the AFC East was horrible, and the quarterbacks, they had no good quarterbacks that he ever had to go again. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing for every team in that division,
Dude,
and he's just
seriously,
like, Brady's
literally
going to beat him.
from the year I was born, 2001. That's when Brady won his first Super Bowl, and
Yeah.
then he won his last Super Bowl, 2020. So, like, my entire life has been on that timeline. So,
And I'm like trying to think back. I always love looking at it. Like, who's the best quarterback that played in that division outside of Brady? And it's like, and I believe
yeah,
early in
Flacco.
the career, it was, I think the Colts were in that division for like a couple of
Right,
years.
right,
It
right,
was
right.
Brady and Manning.
Yes.
And then it was like, oh no, we're going to move it. And it was like, oh no. And then
Yeah,
Manning got kind of
it
shafted
got
because they were
bad.
like, hey, you got to go up against, much better teams, the
Well, and
young Texans and all that
that was
stuff.
part of Brady's success, was how
Exactly.
crappy the AFC East was. So, um,
And
yeah,
the new rule of the first round bye. You got to be the
yes.
1 seed now.
Mm-hmm.
That's even more difficult because it was first round bye every year because they
Mm-hmm.
went 6-0 in the division, and then they won 3 playoff games,
Exactly.
2 at home, and it was like, oh,
Just
look at
like
that.
clockwork. Yeah. No, it's yeah, I'm definitely glad to be on the back end of that. And yeah, so hopefully the Bills can, can get one here, take advantage of the shift in power. But um, yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's a whole new world in the NFL. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and the NFL is run by quarterbacks. It
Mm-hmm.
always has. It wasn't always, but for the
Definitely more
most
so.
of the
Yeah, yeah.
NFL,
Mm-hmm.
it's always been run by quarterbacks. Bills obviously have probably my favorite young quarterback to watch outside of Lamar Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen. How what does Josh Allen need to do this year over the next few years to take that next step in his game? Because it seems like every year it's just like, wow, this guy's new. You can't do that every year. But what is there something in particular that you're looking at that you want him to improve on this season?
Yeah, I think it's just. I mean, at this point, he's got a very complete game. A couple years ago, you would have said, the raw athletics are there. The when he cleaned up his throwing mechanics. I was watching some old, rookie year Josh Allen highlights, and it is unbelievable the like visual difference in his throwing mechanics. Um, so once he cleaned that up, it became, let's make the right decision. Let's not pitch the ball to Dawson Knox in a playoff game, um, with like 2 minutes left. And I think that you saw that sort of begin to improve this past year. Definitely, you saw the game start to slow down for him, um, and I think if he can continue on that trajectory, I mean, we've seen, like we were just talking about with the Brady era, we've seen what wins ultimately, and with some exceptions, ultimately it's those film rats, those
Mm-hmm.
guys who are in there, they know what you're going to do 3 steps ahead of when you're going to do it, and and that partially comes with work, which I don't think anyone has any hangups about Josh's work ethic. But it also just comes with time, and coming into year 5, I think he's seen He's not only seen how defenses work, period, but now he's starting to see, he went through that period where defenses are starting to get to know him, starting to adjust to who he is as a player. Um, and so I think, now that he has that under his belt, it's just about letting the game slow down, making the right decision. Um, so I would say the mental game is the biggest place where I want to see continued improvement from him. But yeah, you can't ask for much more physically
Yeah.
From a guy like that. He absolutely puts it on the line. Yeah, maybe one thing I would say is, I mean, I love to see him run, but if he could peel that back even a tiny bit and rely more on his arm, it just gives me heart palpitations every time he's, staring down a linebacker.
That's why they need James Cook to step up this
Exactly,
year. If
exactly,
he can
exactly.
step up, late in the
Just
season,
lighten
all
the
of a
load
sudden,
even a little bit. Yeah, I
yeah,
think that'll be really helpful. Yeah, so that's what I'm looking for.
yeah, I think that's a great thing to point out because when you look at, in my opinion, the two best quarterbacks of all time, they're the two smartest quarterbacks of all time. I think it's
Exactly.
Brady and Manning, and
Yep.
they studied every day. It seemed like 24 hours where it was like they knew exactly what was going to happen. And
Mm-hmm.
Bill Belichick, my favorite Bill Belichick moment of all time is him talking about Ed Reed, and he was like, that was the only time I
Yeah.
ever saw anybody outthink Peyton Manning because he knew what Peyton was thinking and Peyton knew what he was thinking. He said, no, I'm going to do the opposite of what you think I'm going to do. And he peels back and gets that interception. Those are the types of plays, and those are the types of players that end up winning the more of those championships. I love Aaron Rodgers. I love watching him. Darn, I had my jersey on. I took it off, I think, in my room. But he was on a podcast, I can't remember which one, and he was like, yeah, these guys talk about, oh man, I'm up at 7 a.m. and I'm watching film. He's like, you don't need to do that. You go home, take a chill. And I'm like, Aaron Rodgers, I'm never going to be as good as you. I'm never going to be as athletically gifted. I'm never going to do that. But it seems ironic that the Super Bowl winning quarterbacks that win are the guys that are the ones up, 7 a.m. studying the film over and over and over again. And you, who some people consider the most talented player to ever play at that position, say that, oh, no, you don't need to do that. That shows, like, hey, the guys that are better end up doing it, for longer, and they end up having more success with it. And that's what I want to see out of all these young quarterbacks, right? Because I think Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen came in and they were the most raw. And so it was, let's correct the mechanics, let's correct the, what you're bringing to the table, and then you can focus on the mental game. Whereas other guys, it was like, Baker had the mechanics. His mechanics, his athleticism wasn't able to take him over the top. We'll see how he does this year, but we got to see that next step from those young guys. We've started to kind of see it from Mahomes. He's not at the Brady, Manning level, but we've started to see in interviews where he is like fully talking about it. He's like, oh, that is what I've been working on. And whenever I hear that, I'm like, that gets me scared because I want him to be like Aaron Rodgers. He's just be like, oh yeah,
Yeah, me too.
I saw him
Me
open.
too.
I hit him.
Yeah.
Like, I want that. Let me face
Yeah.
that guy because you can get some big plays. That's why he throws some interceptions. When you start hearing them talking, oh no, this is what I was seeing out there, that's when it gets scary because then okay, they're going to do it for a long time. If when they're 33, 34, that arm starts to decrease, the legs start to decrease. If that mind has been studying for that long, they're going to still be able to play at a high level. That's why Brady's playing at whatever he is, 41, 42 years old.
Exactly. Yeah, it does seem that the proof is in the pudding there. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And another thing, I just want to go back. You were asking like steps for Josh, and I think something, and this is also for the Rams game, that I'm looking out for is this transition here from Daboll to Ken Dorsey at OC in Buffalo, because a lot of people credited Daboll with kind of Josh Allen's development and he was a big part in contributing to what a juggernaut that offense was last year. Um, and Dorsey's been there. He's been the quarterback's coach for Allen these past couple of years. So I'm expecting a relatively smooth transition. But it will be interesting to see, um, how Josh adjusts to that, how kind of the Bills' offense in general looks with this new leadership, and yeah, I'm hoping that it might even bring like an extra dimension. I know him and Dorsey have a great relationship, um, so I'm hoping and I've heard in interviews that they're starting to kind of trust Josh Allen's process more, like be a little bit more hands off with how he approaches things, which I think is a good sign. So yeah, that's just something I'm looking out for.
Yeah, I think anytime a young, especially a young quarterback, gets a new offensive coordinator, it is an adjustment, and the benefit is Josh is wildly talented, so
Yeah,
he's going to be okay. But it's going to
exactly.
be, is this going to be something that benefits him, and maybe the system is even more designed for him, and allowing that more insights from Josh, can that help the team? Because I think it may hurt in the short run, where he's like, oh no, I think we should do this, but in the long run, that is what those great quarterbacks do. I think the best example is Ben Roethlisberger, because Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his career, maybe not last year or the last 2 years, but it was like their team would be no yards, 3-and-out, 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 and then Ben would just say no to the sideline, no huddle, back-to-back drives, puts up 2 touchdowns, and you're like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
Damn.
We were killing the Steelers, and then all of a sudden it's like Big Ben was like, no, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what's open. And it's like, in the long run, that can happen, and that's when it can start to get really scary. Is like when they start seeing it and they say, because we saw it, unfortunately, in the Bills-Chiefs game. Kelsey tells Mahomes, Kelsey's been playing a
Mm-hmm.
long time. He's like, hey, that guy's backed off right here. I need you to hit me. That's something that gets with time and allowing those players to say, hey, yeah, let's do this. That's when it starts to work, is after a little bit of time. Now, you don't want to be throwing no-look passes and stuff like that on the regular,
Right.
because I think that's still my favorite highlight of all time is Mahomes going, whoop, and the ball going 25 yards over Travis Kelsey's head in
Yeah.
the end zone. But you got to let your young guy really start to turn into that next level, even though it may
Yeah.
hurt you in the short run, and that may cause some losses early. But in 2, 3, 4 years, it's going to make
Right.
him that much better.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's a good sign based on what we were talking about before in terms of like the whole mental side of it, where um, I'm hoping that means that they trust him, to step into that role, and that he's starting to see things slow down a little bit, and yeah, so hopefully it's a good sign.
Absolutely. All right, Alex, do you have anything final to say on the Bills season predictions, anything like that, or should we wrap it up?
I don't. I think that's all I got. I know you guys were talking about Gabe Davis, so I won't touch too much on that. But I'm looking for a big year from him. Obviously, Von Miller in Bills Blue is going to be a beautiful thing. And yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, it was a ton of fun. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for that weekly or daily throughout the week, sports content, NFL, NBA, MLB, all that sort of thing. But thank you so much, and we'll see all of you again next time.
Go Bills.